Let's get started this morning. So what is butyric acid? Well, it's best described as a short-chain fatty acid. Our body at the gut level produces 5 or 6 different short-chain fatty acids, but butyric acid is an important one because what it does initially is it's going to get into an irritated gut system, and it's going to start doing some repairs. Now, the epithelial cells in the gut lining feed off from these short-chain fatty acids, but they require 70% of their food, if you will, or the energy source is drawn from butyric acid. Well, that's a large percentage of what their diet needs to be, and if you're not producing enough butyric acid at the gut level, then it's feeding off from the other short-chain fatty acids, which do not provide the amount of energy that these cells require. It's essentially the butyric acid is a foundational treatment for total body health because it's not just affecting the gut level. Once the butyric acid is in the blood system, it is literally a systemic product. It is going to go in many different directions, assisting in the repair and healing of the cells throughout our body. Let's go to the next slide. So the primary thing that we are concerned with when we look at medical conditions is inflammation. I know that most of you are pretty versed on what inflammation is about. You can be working along and smack your elbow and all of a sudden you have this pain occurring there. The instant reaction to that injury is that the cells start producing inflammation, and the inflammation brings more oxygen to the area, and it starts to increase the healing process almost immediately. Well, disease causes inflammation, and numerous conditions in the body is going to cause inflammation, and one of the concerns we need to do is to reduce that. We also know that oxidative stress is related to the causation of inflammation. So let's go to the next slide. So when we look at oxidative stress, what diseases do we know are triggered by that? Well, anything that's related to autoimmune is likely triggered by the increase of oxidative stress in the body. So just look at a few of these, even the common cold, Crohn's disease, heart disease, arthritis, dementia, I heard that mentioned earlier, aging. All of these things have oxidative stress as the precursor for involvement. Let's go to the next slide. So I put this up in talks every now and then. I just love this schematic, if you will. This is how the cell is functioning, how oxidative stress triggers damages in the cell and throughout our body. It's complicated. So we can't just make bold statements on what our products are doing. And we can't just take one product and expect it's going to take care of the whole body. This cell system is complicated, and it requires not just one gene to be firing, but a whole host of genes. And once those genes are fired, then another host of genes are going to start firing, all of them working in concert, if you will, to be able to keep that cell healthy, keep our body and our organs healthy. It is a complicated system. Let's go to the next slide. So let's start with the microbiome, and that's really why I wanted to talk about LINQ first. What I always get frustrated when I hear doctors talking, and of course, if you're like me and you're following this coronavirus news media stuff, these doctors are trying to make something very complex in this particular disease and make it very simple, and if this, then that type of solutional problem. What medical people don't stop to think about is, if I'm going to put something in a patient's mouth, what's it going to do first? Well, first it's going to end up in the gut biome. And if you have an unhealthy gut system, then whatever you're putting in that patient's mouth isn't going to be doing exactly what you're hoping it's going to end up doing. First of all, if the product is not well protected, it could lose its potency just starting at the stomach and the acid to begin with. So by the time it gets to the gut where it's going to be absorbed best, it may not be the dosage that you want or the dosage that whatever you're trying to treat is expecting or needs. So we're going to start, and that's the reason why I started with LINQ is we really want to know that we're getting the gut healthy. If we're going to put things in like the third week, we'll talk about genomics, which really does an awful lot at the cellular genetic gene level, if you will. And we're going to talk about the anti-inflammation characteristics and why going to Optimend is important. We'll go to that next. Let's do the next slide. So where does butyric acid come from? Pretty simple. It's the bulk fiber within the foods that we eat. Unfortunately, in our American diet, we just are not getting enough fiber in our system anymore. And so when we talk about supplementation, we're trying to say your body doesn't have enough vitamin C, so let's take some vitamin C and let's boost that up a little bit. So we're looking at things that are true supplements, and butyric acid truly is a true supplement because we're going into the gut system. We want to improve it, and we know we're having troubles at that level because we're not producing enough fiber. So prebiotics are considered a fiber. That's where butyric acid is helped to be generated, and then probiotics are also assisted in helping to improve the bacteria region within the gut. So we're starting with LINQ to be able to say we want to get this butyric acid in there. We want to increase the fiber that the body's producing. We pack butyric acid, I say, with a natural lunch for the butyric acid, and the 3 prebiotics that are formulated with this product helps to encourage additional growth of butyric acid at the gut level. Let's go to the next slide. So why do we need butyric acid? Well, here's a few things that we know that butyric acid is good for. I'll just hit a couple points here. It helps regulate our immune system. It's beneficial in the bacteria, the growth of bacteria in our intestine. It facilitates in the absorption of ions and waters. It also facilitates in absorption of other products that you're trying to make a patient healthy with. Let's go to the next one. So again, how does LINQ promote the health? Well, LINQ is an epigenetic regulator. It regulates molecules that control where the certain genes are expressed. I talked about that briefly when I showed you the slide of the complexity of the schematic of a cell and the body's function of these cells and gene expressions. Really, that's what one of the most important things LINQ does. So we know that we're feeding the epithelial cells in the gut lining to make them healthy. But here's what I talk about when we're talking about it going more systemic, meaning that the body's going to utilize it in other areas. It helps to cause, if you will, that epigenetic upregulation. It's also a regulator that can alter the function of proteins that make chemical changes in our DNA. So this is where we get the concept of, it's too early in the morning and my brain is kind of working like a car that's missing. This is where we're relating to the epigenetic phrase. So we know that if we can make changes to the DNA, in this case, what LINQ is helping to do is cause these chemicals that change DNA to turn these switches on and off again. So this is the epigenetic function of the LINQ product. And we're going to talk, hopefully I'll touch on that with each of our products. Let's go to the next slide. So what are some of the things that once we're healing this gut system that we can tell people if you're having issues with certain pathologies, can LINQ be helpful for that? I'm going to stop here just briefly to tell you to get your pens and paper out and write this down. This is what I want you to memorize. First and foremost, our products are not medicine. They don't treat or cure anything. what our products do is, when that last slide we're talking about upregulation of gene expressions, is that food is the epigenetic control of cells and DNA. So whatever food you're putting in your body is going to have some play on making a cell healthy, or in some cases even causing upregulation of gene expressions. But it's not the food itself that does these repairs of the body. So let's talk a little bit about what we're talking about here. LINQ is not going to cure irritable bowel disease. It's not going to cure Crohn's disease. It's not going to cure cancer of the colon. However, if you don't have enough butyric acid in the system, then the system starts to go haywire. You start to have inflammation in the gut region. These cells are deteriorating. You end up getting what we describe as and here we go again, we got another skip here, where the cells are inflamed, they start to separate, and then they can no longer filter out bacteria in food, and all of that gets into it. And I think their next slide is going to talk about that, so let's go to it. So the leaky gut was a phrase I was trying to come up with. I love this slide. If you look at it to the left, at least my left, I think it'll be yours as well, you see those nice, robust, healthy, full-size cells with that tight juncture between them. On the right side of that, you'll look at those inflamed red cells, big gaps in between them. That's the leaky gut syndrome. And you can see underneath there is a bloodstream. That's when you have leaky gut system, that's what's going to happen is these bacteria are going to get crossed over into the blood system, and then everything goes south from there. Let's go to the next slide. So irritable bowel is more common than irritable bowel disease. So the syndrome simply means if those that haven't, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those that may not have ever had an irritable bowel pathology, whether it be the syndrome or disease, it simply means that when you're eating food, too much of the bacteria of that food and in the gut is leaking into the blood system, and it can create a kind of a rush of pushing the food out of the stomach and into the gut. Would then you'll end up with diarrhea very quickly. You can start with abdominal pain, bloating, gas. All of the bowel habits are changed when you have this pathology. I can tell you that the LINQ product is amazing to people who have this condition. I've seen people that I've recommended that they take LINQ to help heal their gut system, to allow the body to, at the gut level, to return back to normal. It improves, it helps in improving the gut biome and making it healthier. If they have irritable bowel syndrome or irritable bowel disease, they may see results in 24 hours or 3 days or within a week, depending upon the severity. Simply because if you can get those gut epithelial cells back functioning properly again, they will see a reversal of this particular disorder right quickly, and it's pretty impressive, and it certainly makes a believer out of anybody taking the LINQ product. Let's go to the next one. So what makes it unique? Well, I think probably one of the key things, you know, butyric acid's been around for a long time. Those of you who may not be familiar with it, it's a very rancid smelling supplement. If you get it off market with some of the other manufacturers, you open up the bottle and the whole room immediately smells like the cat and dog both threw up right at your feet. That odor is toxic, and it's pretty nasty. What makes our unique is that we have this Silock and Dex key technology in it. It locks, it literally shrinks each molecule of the formula when it coats it or encapsulates it into these molecular encapsulations. So each of the molecules are covered. When it does that, it really locks in the rancid smell of butyric acid. What it does is it increases the bioavailability, because now when you're putting this product into the stomach, it's not breaking down there. You get a full dose. and it doesn't release because of the DEX key. It doesn't release until it gets into the colon, where it is best used, best absorbed, and you get the best bioavailability. What we mean by that simply is that you're getting a full dose. You're getting the required amount of the product formula to really do the job that the product was designed and expected to do. And again, as I said, it reduces the smell and taste of it. Let's go to the next slide. So let's go to the next one. I think we already did this one. I must put it in twice. So LINQ improves gut function and microbiome health. Next slide. Some of the benefits of LINQ: it increases the creation of brain cells, the neurogenesis of that gut-brain reaction. Again, it's not the supplement doing that, but by increasing the health of the gut biome, the microbiome, then you're increasing the ability to have that neurogenesis occur where the brain and the gut are talking. I really look at our microbiome as the circuit board of the computer. It's not the microprocessor. The brain essentially is the microprocessor in our system here, but the gut is the electronics that is gating all of the control information that is required to get the information out of that microprocessor and into your screen where you can utilize it. We know that this connects that gut-brain axis better. It moderates mood disorder. It does that because 90% of all of the key elements necessary for the chemical reactions, if you will, for depression are generated at the gut. If you have a leaky gut syndrome, if you have a weak gut system and that microbiome is not healthy, then of course the lack of those key elements of working with depression are not there. They're reduced. And so depression becomes a pretty significant consideration. So people that end up on our LINQ product, you can't tell them it's going to cure your depression, but you can certainly say by having a healthy gut, we know that is going to increase the amount of serotonin produced at the gut level, which we know is about 90% of what's released throughout the body. By doing that, you very likely can see a change in what your depression is doing, and we hope that occurs for you. Next slide. So it increases the metabolism. I think I've kind of touched on that a little bit. If the whole gut biome is healthy, which LINQ is a key factor in getting it back to that healthy state, then we're going to see a better metabolism and all things that are coming through the gut system for better absorption. And that includes just the food you eat. Cells require all the food that we eat. And if it's good, clean food, once your metabolism is functioning properly, then that nutritional factor of that food is going to be better absorbed and better utilized by each of your cells. Next slide. So it regulates the immune system. Again, I touched on that. 70% of the immune system is largely housed within the gut system and it originates there. So if your autoimmune system is weak, which is, again, going back to one of the slides that I showed, the various autoimmune related pathologies, those are triggered because our immune system is not being able to protect our cells in our body from various viruses, i.e. the coronavirus. If you have a good autoimmune system functioning like it's supposed to, then I believe strongly that people who are on these three products are less likely to have any kind of results from this coronavirus. And maybe if they do actually get the disease, are going to be far easier capable of fighting off the disease's process itself because your autoimmune system is functioning at the level it needs to. And again, in my opinion, it takes all of these products to get your autoimmune system at that level. Next slide. So LINQ is only one of our ACTIVZ trifecta products, which together offer in the single best epigenetic protection on the market today. And I am absolutely convinced of that. I'll take that to the bank. In summary, next slide, we're looking at one more. I'm watching my slides and not the ones you're showing. So in summary, butyric acid is important, readily available fuel for the body for many, many, many benefits. It's not always easy to get from the food we produce in our body or that we give it. LINQ is the most bioavailable and consumable butyric acid supplement on the market, and that is related to that Siloc and Dex key component. It contains prebiotics, which is unusual. I know all of you have heard, probably from your medical doctors as well, probiotics. I'm not a fan of probiotics. It starts with prebiotics. And so the fact that we can increase prebiotics, essentially, I use the phrase that it's the lunch packed in the LINQ product for the butyric acid, because it's going to help generate more butyric acid at the gut level. Once you are improving that gut biome, it's going to produce its own probiotics. And so it knows what it needs. We do not, unless you're seeing a functional medicine doc that's testing your fecal matter and telling you what probiotics your system is weak in. You shouldn't just be downloading a boatload of probiotics, because you can cause additional concerns otherwise. And I think that's about it. I hope I didn't go over time too far.